the biggest mistakes we have noticed over the 20 years that boards make. Now, don't get nervous. We're not here to point any fingers. We're just here to share what we've observed over the years. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for Policy Party. I'm Negar Sharifi, and with my partner, Bill Masi, and we're with Arthur J. Gallagher Insurance. All right, Bill, I know I have my notes right here, and you've got your notes. So how about you get us started with one of the biggest mistakes, in your opinion, that you've seen boards make? And by the way, this doesn't have to just be insurance, because the reality is we've been around. I've served on my boards. Phil currently serves on 2 condo association boards. So this
I was on 4 at one point, so I'm down to 2.
You were on 4.
Thankfully.
So this is also in our capacity as prior board presidents and board members too.
Well, I mean, I think we're a good authority on this because not only do we attend hundreds, if not, hundreds of board meetings a year, easy. I mean, whether it's virtually or in person, and we're watching boards go through their whole board meetings and everything all the time, sometimes getting us in first, sometimes not. And then, so we've seen.
Please always get us in first if we're there live.
Yeah. We always see our share of board meetings, right? And you see the contention and the issues. Plus, we're roped into the claims. So we see all the claims and the fights and all things like that. Plus, again, I was on 4 large condo boards. I'm down to 2 large condo boards. I know you've been on several boards over the years that I've been involved in. Plus, we've served in capacity of like an insurance committee, an ARB committee I was on my HOA board. So we live and breathe this stuff every day. So I feel like it's a good thing for us to talk about. And this is probably just part 1, because I think you're going to end up we could sit here all day. And talk about this stuff.
I actually personally have a lot. So that's a good idea. This is likely going to be part 1 of a multi-part series.
And so you look at board mistakes here, but I think you could do one for managers, for insurance agents, for vendors. You can down the line, right? Everybody makes the mistakes. So when I say these things, I've done these. So, it's not just everybody else's fault. But the first one I would say is undervaluing quality association community management. I just feel like it might sound self-serving, but a good manager that's doing capable manager doing a good job at your property, it's so difficult to find and get into a rhythm with that I see associations be willing to fire and change management over a few bucks a door or whatever their metric is, and totally devalue the knowledge that person had, the craziness that the new management, the transition will be, and all other stuff, and throw away something that was working well. Just to save some money. I feel like that's the one vendor that's really difficult to buy on the dollar, because good quality management that has the history of the place, that's been doing a good work, to get rid of them, there's such a gamble. And the upside is, okay, we saved a little money, but the downside is like tremendous. I mean, like the amount of nonsense that can incur and go on. I just feel like that is something that boards will new boards come in, they're pissed about something, we're firing management, and no one really, as a new board member, probably could be another mistake, but take stock of what they actually have. I mean, how many times as agents do we get fired before ever meeting the new board just because they hate everything the old board did, right? So everyone's out.
They throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Correct, right? So we might have the greatest, best insurance program ever written. It's got great service. We've been the agent for 10, 15, 20 years. We know everything about the community. We could be a huge asset within insurance and outside of insurance for that board. And instead of even having the opportunity to meet that new board or have a conversation, we're bad just because we were a product of the prior management, which oftentimes in our case, we've been there through multiple management. So I've been the agent since 2006. It's like, they've had so many boards and managers, but, so I think a big problem is you get new boards that just throw everything out regardless of taking stock and understanding it. And within that too, just devaluing the role of the manager and how important it is to have a really good one. I've got more, but
so that's number 1.
Yeah, it's just my list is
mistake number 1. Making the decision to either get rid of a property manager without trying to work it out, or not compensating, or maybe paying good money for a good manager. Mm-hmm. Am I right? Okay. I'll tell you one I find is waiting too long to maintain their property. Mm. Okay. So, plumbing doesn't last forever. Right. So sometimes I have associations, whether it be there's these pinhole leaks that keep happening in different units. And then it's like a repair when it's like it needs to get fixed. Or whether it's a roof that's old and they just keep patching it.
And siding is a big one. Yeah.
Siding is also a big one. Mind you, these items are not covered by any property insurance, especially if they're occurring over a long period of time. Water intrusion through the bad siding, leaks through the roof,
rot and all
wood
kinds
rot,
of other
mold,
issues.
not covered by any property policy. It's considered a maintenance issue. Or flipping it to the general liability side, not maintaining sidewalks. It becomes a trip hazard. So that's my mistake. That's one of the ones I identified, is not maintaining the property appropriately to pinch pennies and save money.
Well, and what you find is there's a quote out there, and I don't know what exactly it is, but I've heard people say
You're
it many
probably going to
times.
mess it up.
Probably. But no, like $1 of prevention's worth $3 of fix, right?
That's
or
good.
repair, right? So it's like a 300% increase. And basically when you do the math, right? If you don't seal the building and paint it when you're supposed to, and water gets in, I can tell you. So one of the boards I was on was a 400 unit condo, and we had to do, because the boards prior to us did not do any of this management. They're all really delinquent in the building envelope. I mean, it was $11 million to reskin the buildings. And that was not counting like change. And I went through all that, $11 million. And again, that was 7-8 years ago now. Lord knows what that would be today. But $11 million to reside these buildings. And that didn't count what it cost to do the new roofs. That didn't count what it cost to do landscape, all the other stuff that came with it. But who's got $11 million sitting around? I think we had like $11. But I mean, that association.
Did you guys go big?
Yeah. It's a long story. But I mean, yeah, but you want to know, listen, I'm probably one of the only presidents of any board that took their association through bankruptcy, right? Federal bankruptcy, went through the whole thing because of sins of the past and what we had to get through. I would be willing to bet that there's only probably less than 20 other board members that can say they were involved in a bankruptcy for a community association that wasn't like a developer controlled place. It's very rare. We looked into it trying to find other communities that went through what we were going through. And only ones we found really were, developers just went under while developing a place. Rare you see an association that's formed and out there, file for bankruptcy. I've got a client of mine going through it right now. So you see it, it's just rare. And again, a lot of that was attributed to the fact that there was such massive issues and the city was fining us such a crazy amount a day. I think we got up to $20 million in fines. And so it was like that fine number was so insane. It was like getting out from underneath that became very difficult. So again.
So you agree
you're right,
with my mistake, not maintaining the property appropriately. All right. So what you got for me? What's another mistake you've noticed?
Fighting with each other. I mean, for the
that's a good one.
As a board member,
I feel like we're on Family Feud.
Well, no, I just feel like these would probably be your top three things, but like fighting with one another as board members. I mean, when you're an outsider looking in, nothing seems stupider. When you're in it, it feels like it's everything about your life and it's really important, but you're like, I've been in a situation where there was, problem people involved that were making it difficult. But when I'm on good boards where everybody kind of is, it's all right to disagree with one another, but talk through it and be sensible. Like those are fine. I don't have every answer and those people don't either, but there are people that should not be on boards because of the way they are, or even good people get crazy when they get into fights with one another. The amount of time that gets wasted, energy that gets wasted, money that gets wasted because they're we've got directors and officers, suing prior boards, suing the current board, individual libel, slander cases, everything else. Like you're just paying attorney fees and all this other stuff going on. Your claims are going up on the association side, and you're not spending the time you need to actually do what's already hard to do, is run this community. And you're scaring people away. You're scaring away other board members that are probably sensible, that would want to run. They look at it and they're like
no way.
How would I do that? And then you're scaring your way managers too. Like good managers that would manage the place are like, why would you want to get involved in that kind of disaster? So I'll tell you a funny story. We were in federal court and the judge asked me, because federal judges, they don't understand community association law to that degree, but they were going over all the issues at the community. And she stopped the proceeding and said, Mr. Masi, and I was like, yeah. And she's like, how much do you get paid for this position? She assumed it was a paid position. Yeah. I was like, nothing, Your Honor. And it's a volunteer position. And she looked at me and she was doing something and she lowered her glasses and looked right at me and was like, what's wrong with you? And it was hilarious in the moment, but I was like, I tried to explain. I was like, it's kind of my career. It's what I do. I was like, getting involved in this really helps me understand what my clients go through and everything else. And maybe I had a good answer for that, but I mean, she's not wrong. I mean, the amount of hours I put into that build at $0. I mean, there's really no benefit from it. I own one unit. Yeah, I get there's a benefit holistically, but it's a ton of sweat capital for very little return. So when you're on a board and you get into these fights with one another and you can't resolve them and you can't work together, it's just derailing to everything. So I think that's a
very good point. Not fighting with one another. A big mistake is that they do fight.
Yeah, okay. Correct, 100%.
All right, so that's 3. Let's go through 2 more. So I have one. It's focusing only on premium instead of coverage. So I had one recently where another agent audited my client's policies. And they said, I believe there was an error so egregious in the program. So I've been with this board forever. So the board wrote back and they're like, can you please explain what is so egregious? And the agent wrote that you could have saved a lot more money if you would have had a higher hurricane deductible. This property's on the water in Cocoa Beach. Yeah. Okay. We had them at a 3%. And the thing is, I had actually presented a 5 and a 3, and I let them choose, and it made way more sense to go with the 3%.
It almost always does.
It's just to buy down the 3% was a no-brainer. So, but some boards, they'll just want to, and they've said, and I'm sure they've said it to you, where they're like, I just want the cheapest. Mm-hmm. Just get it down. I don't care. We're never going to use it. I just want the cheapest. So, they take a higher deductible, which may not pay off. I mean, we're in Florida, right? Or they exclude coverages. This is a big one. One of our current general liability carriers that we use, that a lot of other agents use, has started adding some pretty major exclusions to their 2026 policy term. And for the most part, they're not removing it. So Phil and I are recommending to our boards, we recommend you leave this carrier because they're adding this exclusion and go to this carrier that doesn't have it. It's going to cost more, but you'll have the coverage. And most of the boards are saying, yeah, I see the value. We'll pay some more. This is a big one. Companies, and this is why you should rely on the two of us when we know a carrier has awful claim service.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're hitting the nail on the head though with looking at the dollar versus the coverage. I'll give you an example of that one we were talking about, like the assault and battery exclusion. If you have an assault and battery exclusion, you go from having that $1 million general liability policy, plus let's say you had a $10 million umbrella, that's $11 million of coverage. And if you have the exclusion, you have zero coverage. It's not like you have the $1 million gap and then a $10 million. You have nothing.
Because the umbrella won't kick in.
Nothing. So you want to know how you go bankrupt. And I know because when we filed bankruptcy, it was from uncovered insurance claims. In that scenario, it was.
You weren't the agent at the time.
I wasn't. I wasn't the agent. I wasn't on the board. But they had uncovered liability claims to the tune of like 2 separate $1 million plus, not judgments, but cases against them. And it was costing the association when I was on the board like $25,000 a month in defense cost. You think it's expensive going through trials and doing all this other stuff. It's crazy. So again, had the association just had the right coverage and the premium was in place, we wouldn't have been dealing with that. And, I find it really crazy to me that people will say like, we don't need insurance. We're never going to use it and stuff like that. All we do is file insurance claims. And I see tons of associations that have gotten a lot more in insurance proceeds than they ever paid in premiums over the course of the last 5 to 10 years. So, again, the insurance carriers wouldn't be going bankrupt and leaving Florida if they weren't paying claims, right? So I think we get a lot of in the mud there about stuff that's not true. So, I think that's a very valid one.
And one thing that I do want to touch on, since we're talking about focusing on premium instead of like value and coverage, is right now, Phil and I, which you've probably heard us talk about it, we created a new product that is only available through our office, and it's wind coverage on your landscaping. Okay. So if a hurricane comes through, the property items that are most susceptible to damage are your trees, your palm trees, your oak trees, things that are really valuable in your community that make your community special, but incredibly expensive to replace. And a lot of associations don't have the reserves set aside to replace all their landscaping. But what I found is we're able to deliver some decreases this year, coming in below budget. Decreases. This is the time to add those coverages when we're coming in below budget. So that's what kind of came up, focusing on premium instead of the coverages that you're getting.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. If you've budgeted $100,000 for insurance this year and we come in at $80,000 and it's $5,000 to add this landscaping coverage and you're like, nah, we're going to take the savings. Like sometimes you got to think about those scenarios a little closer. And I'll look at the hurricane percentage deductible you mentioned, because I think that's crazy when agents argue to take a
Oh,
higher
yeah.
deductible. Again, 2023, different market. But when you talk about an improved softening market like it's been the last few years, you have to reduce that deductible back down. Because in my mind, every condo should have a 1%, 2%, or 3% deductible. 5% is really, really tough. If you're talking about, again, a $50 million building, it's $2.5 million in just deductible on that you're having to come up with, really in damage before you even get into the policy. So at 3%, 2%, 1% is easier to get into the policy and actually use it. But in addition to that, you think about the loss assessment coverage and the ability to assess unit owners and have their insurance policy pay the assessment for the deductible. We've gotten into that in other classes. Your chance of doing that with keeping that assessment in a number that everybody, can pay for through their insurance is a lower percentage deductible. So that lower percentage deductible makes it a lower amount that you have to assess them and a lower difference in what you get from the carrier. Like, that's worth its weight in gold when a loss happens. The easier ability to access the policy and pay for whatever that shortfall is, or fund that shortfall, makes everyone's life easier. It's worth every cent. And, again, when people are making that decision in a softening market to not spend that money is insane, because you're already beating your budgets in almost all these scenarios. It's not like 23 where, we're taking these higher deductibles to offset massive increases because we're blowing the budget up.
Well, why don't you give us, because we're short on time, and this is only part one of the multi-part series, one more mistake that you've seen boards make.
All right. Well, I'll pull from the insurance side. So, there's so many. So we'll just throw one at you. Bidding insurance wrong. So, some boards just think insurance is like every other vendor. So my landscaper, I want to get bids on landscaping. I'm going to go out to 2 different landscapers, 3 different landscapers. Everyone's coming with their own crews, their own trucks, and they're all giving us a bid, right? Perfect world, those bids shouldn't probably be that crazy off, but they can be, right? Someone's got better insurance, premiums, they don't have to charge back as much, whatever it is. But in the insurance world, if you're with a good agent who specializes in community association insurance, like us, it doesn't have to be us, other people, we likely have access to all the major markets that would consider this risk. And we're all, as agents, middlemen, right? So we go out there and bid all these markets and bring back quotes. A lot of boards don't understand that. They think they need to get multiple agents involved in order to get multiple bids, when your one agent should be getting you multiple bids. That's what we do. So I think that's probably another big mistake on the insurance side, because then you get these other agents involved. And when you call up another agent, and let's just say I'm the agent on the account and you call somebody else, we're already going out to all the markets we need to go to. We're already leveraging those relationships, negotiating that deal. That other agent usually isn't going to have a market we don't have, almost never. So they're going to always pitch firing us, right? So sign this agent of record letter, fire the current agent, hire us. That's going to be the pitch, right? There's not really a way for them to bid against us in a way that is going to be successful typically. And so then you end up in usually a scenario where the boards now, before they even see terms from us or anything, considering releasing us, because they're going to get a quote from the other agent, and it creates a lot of confusion. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest things, is thinking you need to get another agent involved just to get another bid, when that's what we do. We go out to all these markets, we get the bids, and we bring back the best combination of coverage, pricing, and terms.
Thank you. And we will have a second part of this series of biggest mistakes we've seen boards make. We hope you gleaned some positive information that will help you from making a costly mistake. Thank you for joining us today for Policy Party. I'm Negar Sharifi, joined by Phil Masi.